Hello and welcome back to another episode of On Campus here on the Solano College Sports Network. I'm your host today, Brooklyn Gonzales, and today we have the pleasure to be joined by our athletic director here at Solano Community College, Erik Visser. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure. Looking forward to kind of sharing what we've been doing at Solano College Athletics in the last decade or so.
Yeah, you've been here for almost 11 years now.
Yeah,
So
correct.
can you kind of tell us about your background and how you landed your role here at Solano?
So really quickly, in 1978, which is really a lifetime ago, right? I was offered a soccer scholarship at the University of San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
So I played there for 4 years, from 78 to 81. I was very, very privileged that I was surrounded by teammates from 18 different countries, and they were all high caliber athletes. And said I was very fortunate to play on two NC2A Division One national championships just because I played with great players.
Wow.
So that was a wonderful experience. I graduated undergraduate from the University of San Francisco. Very important milestone is that during my undergraduate days in my first year, I met my wife, Martha. We're still married, so
Congratulations.
that's a long time ago,
Yeah, it was.
right? So in 1982, I graduated. Like most 21, 22-year-olds, you don't really know what you want to do.
Mhm.
I always had an interest in law. USF had a very, very good law school. And, I applied, did the LACT, I did okay. But at the moment I was going to enter law school, my head soccer coach that I played for, he was a legendary coach that won 5 national championships.
Wow.
And he said, "Hey, I don't have any assistant coaches for the year. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah." My first year as an assistant coach, I would be coaching a lot of my teammates that I played with the years before.
Mhm.
So that would be a nice little experience.
Yeah.
32 years later, I'm still at the University of San Francisco in many different roles.
Yeah.
I started the Division One women's soccer program at USF in 1985.
Mm.
So I was really proud of that. At the same token, I also realized that at that time, getting full-time coaching jobs was really difficult.
Mm.
So I found a passion for academic counseling and athletics.
Mm.
So I was able to get my master's degree at USF and started my way up as an intern to become responsible for all the academics services
Mm.
and the NC2A compliance for about 250, 300 student athletes. So I was able to combine kind of learning a vocation, at a college in academics and NC2A compliance while pursuing my passion in coaching. So while I was doing, the women's coaching and academic counseling, I also continued to assist as a men's soccer coach. So in 2000, when the head coach, Steve Nigowesko, retired, the college asked me to be the head men's soccer coach. So I became the head men's soccer coach in 2000, and I did that for 13 years. And as I mentioned, after 32 years, it's time.
Yeah.
So I retired, took a breather, and then 6 months later, the great opportunity of Solano College Athletics Community College arose.
Wow. Yeah, it seems like a pretty long journey and just being in the athletic department and all the things, all in betweens, athletes,
Yeah.
coaching, directing, all that. But before that, you are from the Netherlands. Can
Yes.
you tell us a little bit about that and moving over to the United States and how that was for you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Netherlands in the 60s, and I was born in Amsterdam, which,
Oh, wow.
it's a very cosmopolitan city, very much like San Francisco.
Mm.
It's very open-minded, very diverse. It's kind of a laboratory of thoughts and ideas. In the 60s, a lot of the student protests, originated in Amsterdam. So I kind of was raised in an era of very open-mindedness, diversity, treating people, every creed, color, religion, just people are people. So that was kind of like my roots that I grew up with. And then in addition to that, the only thing outside going to school that we grew up with was playing soccer. That was all there was no TV, a little bit of radio, but pretty much in between your breaks or after school, before school, you played hours and hours of unsupervised street soccer. So you were not part of a club. You just played in the streets, like you picked your teammates, and, whether you were 7 years old or 12 years old didn't really make a difference. So that kind of, unsupervised youth of playing sports, et cetera, was just a wonderful era in the 60s. Then in the 70s, I became more serious about soccer. I started playing club soccer, and I was reasonably talented. And in Amsterdam, the dream of every boy is playing for a club named Ajax. It's like playing for the 49ers or for the Giants.
The pro
It's like
clubs.
that's, it's that dream. And at the age of 16, I went to a tryout, and by great surprise, I got selected to be part of the junior program of Ajax Amsterdam.
Oh
And
wow.
there was really like a junior professional, you would be groomed to be a professional. But, I was a pretty good student, and trying to combine being an excelling student and being a top potential professional was very, very difficult. So when all is said is done, I can empathize with those that didn't make it. I didn't get a contract. Many reasons, injuries, but I didn't get a contract. It was not
Right.
good enough.
Right.
So then I started exploring what's next.
Yeah.
And I always had a fascination, United States, college sports. I started doing some research in the library in Amsterdam, and I got my hands on Sports Illustrated magazine. I got my hands on a magazine called Soccer America, and they listed the top 20 colleges for soccer. And I wrote all 20 of them.
Oh
And
my
I got
god.
6 offers.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. No way. That's
yeah.
really
So,
cool.
it kind of like, we'll talk about, you have to take initiative.
Yeah.
There's luck, but you
Yeah.
also have to take initiative.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned you were a student athlete in college, and how has that shaped your approach to coaching and now athletic directing?
Oh, very much so. Number one, sharing a locker room with teammates from 18 to 20
Hmm.
different cultures, you get a much better understanding that every person is different.
Yeah.
Everybody has different goals. Everybody has a different way of kind of getting where you want to get, right?
Yeah.
And then what I really learned is how our head coach managed 18 different cultures,
Oh,
right? How
yeah.
he was able to make like a team out of, players from so many different countries, backgrounds, cultures, different ways of playing, different ways of approaching the game, preparing for a game, different ways of warming up. There's a lot of different ways of warming up for a game. So, the Brazilians, they warm up very different than the Germans. The Brazilians are more like easy. The Germans are very strict, regimented, and organized.
Yeah.
So I really learned from my head coach how he was able to put it all together. So I think that was really a learning environment. And then we really had a group of student athletes. We were all committed to our academics. We all realized that, athletics was an opportunity to get an education and eventually prepare ourselves for a vocation or for a career. So, a lot of lifetime learning. You really learn about teams, team building, leadership. And so I think playing on a team, and especially intercollegiate teams, it has a lot of values that prepare student athletes for life.
Yeah. And then what advice would you give to student athletes that are, either wanting to make it to like the bigger leagues, the pro leagues, or if they want to take a route like you did and become a coach or
I think when you look at the numbers of athletes in any sport that ultimately make it to the major leagues or to the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball,
yeah,
we all know that those numbers are very, 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 very limited, right?
right.
And there's a lot of ways that you don't really control who eventually gets there. It's luck, it's opportunity, it's an injury,
Connections.
it's a coach that likes you, a scout.
Yeah,
You happen to play the best game ever, and a scout saw you, and he goes, "Oh, I like that." So there's a
yeah,
lot of things that you do not control of actually getting there.
yeah,
It's so different from like an individual sport like swimming. Like you have a specific time and you can't really argue about this is a good play or not play. The time is the time,
Yeah, yeah.
So I think, in terms of my advice would be really focus on your academics because it's something that you can control. And not only, does it prepare you for your real vocation and career, but if you have an ambition like at Solano College and all the other community colleges, we have a lot of young men and women that want to move on to the 4 year level.
Yeah.
Ultimately, your academics is your meal ticket, your AA degree, your GPA, because not only enables you to transfer and get admitted, it qualifies you for academic aid, right? So it helps you with financial aid. It also helps you with your eligibility transferring to the 4 year level. So, I think that's one of the things that we have really like focused on in the last 11 years, with myself as the athletic director, emphasizing that academics is really the critical component that you can control. Now,
Yeah.
you can be the best athlete that you potentially can be,
Right.
but eventually you don't control which coach at the 4 year level is going to recruit you or like you.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's enough examples of athletes that were very, very talented. Because of their grades, they were not able to get in or eligible or get a scholarship. So, my advice is number one, focus on your academics and be a good citizen. When coaches at the 4 year level recruit high school players or AAAU players or community college players, they want to know they get good citizens. They don't want troublemakers. No matter how good you are,
Yeah.
they want good citizens. So, academics and good citizens, that's really my advice.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So you've been here for quite a while here at Solano College. How have you seen the athletic program evolve the most?
Well, when I took over, when I became the athletic director, there was an incredible history and infrastructure already in place. The
Yeah.
athletics has been here since 45, and it has such a rich tradition, even when it was Vallejo Community College. So, I came in, number one, really recognizing the incredible history and tradition of the program. And my predecessor, Dean Athletic Director Bob Myers, is really, in my circles, really very well respected as a Dean Athletic Director at the community college level. And, the values that he that he initiated, introduced, and promoted of what student athletes is all about and what athletics is all about, and kind of the faculty and coaches that he hired, and many of them, like Coach Stover,
Yeah.
they're all still here. It all really happened during his era. So all I try to do is kind of continue that tradition, and then like any other new coach, head coach, you try to add maybe little pieces, to kind of position yourself not only in this era, but like what I'm doing right now. I think in many ways, I think we're trying to position Solano Community College athletics for the next decades,
Right.
so it will continue to be a leader. So I was very fortunate to take over a top-notch program. And as I said, I try to, be very respectful, recognizing the rich tradition and kind of build on that with my own kind of vision.
Yeah. And can you kind of take us through a day to day for you? Like, what does that look like being an athletic director that maybe like people like me wouldn't know?
It's really difficult. It's difficult. Athletics is, sometimes you work holidays, Christmas,
Hmm.
sometimes you have a day off. Sometimes you get a text message from your coach at 10:20 p.m. With something urgent. So I would say you always have to be available around the clock. All our teams are on the road. They take vans. A van breaks down at 10 o'clock on the Benicia Bridge. The athletic director has to be, available.
Yeah.
So it depends a little bit, once our sports seasons, start, like once you start like in the fall with soccer, volleyball, basketball, men's and women's basketball in the fall, obviously you're very involved in, the games, like being the game administrator, the game preparation, you help, oversee the scheduling, the budgeting. So once the athletic seasons start, you're involved a lot with the games on a daily basis. So an athletic director, mainly the main role is for me is I'm responsible for all the facilities, like whether it's the baseball field, the softball field, the swimming pool, the tennis courts, the soccer field, the softball field. So there's always something with the facility. So on a daily basis, there's something with maintenance, preparation, maybe something in the swimming pool broke down. So there's on a daily basis, there's definitely interaction with facilities. So that
Yeah.
that is one. Number two, as the athletic director, I'm responsible for the budget, right? So any request of a coach for a purchase of like team uniforms or we need soccer balls, that all comes through me and, I have to evaluate, approve it. Any team travel, teams that go on the road, we have to obviously prepare, for that transportation, a bus, a van. So approving like the budget for transportation, and for travel, as well. And then so during the day, I would say on a Monday when I come in, the first thing that I do is we check the full-time enrollment of all the student athletes because all student athletes have to be full-time students to participate, right? So
Oh, yeah.
that's probably the first thing that I do because you want to make sure that everybody is eligible, right? And then usually after that, I check in with our admin, with our assistant athletic director, Alison Albert, any issues over the weekend, and then at 11 o'clock every Monday we have a staff meeting. We meet with our trainer, sports medicine. We meet with Alonso and Diego, our athletic assistants, with our administrative assistant, Marilyn Rovera, and with assistant AD, Alison Arbut. We meet and then we kind of lay out kind of a work plan, for the week. And then it's pretty much like it's meeting, but then also it's projects. There's a lot of projects that you have to present, research projects, PowerPoints. On June the 4th, I'll do a PowerPoint presentation for the Solano board with an update, on athletics. And it's like anything else. You come in with a game plan, like I'm going to do this, but then there's something, an injury or a student or a faculty member or a coach or another department, the dean of counseling wants to meet. So you have kind of a game plan like that you come in and that you want to get done. Yeah, we all have our kind of to-do list for the day.
Yeah.
But then as an athletic director, it's so fluid. I said it's facilities, it's travel, it's teams, it's the budget. There's so many other things that kind of pop on your plate that you don't really know. And as I said, the unique thing about athletics is you never can turn your phone off, or you can
Yeah.
never. It's not like at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, hey, we're done for the day,
Oh, yeah, no.
right? Or in the
Right.
weekend, we're done for the day. You have to be always on alert. But that's the fascinating, thing. The other thing that I really like to do is I like to watch as many practices as possible.
Wow.
Because not only it gives me a better idea how a coach coaches. You can see a game, but at practice, which is the class, you
Yeah.
can see a lot. How a coach, and every coach is different. The way they prepare, the way they teach. And then also I can see how kind of the student athletes, how not how only they respond, but kind of their attitude. Are they attentive? Are they hard workers? Are they slagging? And then what I like to do is kind of like tap them on the shoulders and then once in a while, talk to student athletes. I think, the majority of student athletes, I know their names and I have a pretty good idea because across my hall, my office is Nick Cittadino, who is our designated athletic counselor.
Okay.
And since athletic counseling was kind of my background at the University of San Francisco,
Yeah.
I interact with him a lot, especially I try to help and mentor student athletes that want to move to the 4-year level, whether it's getting an A degree, what schools, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, NIA. So I work very closely with Nick, and when I see student athletes in his office, I usually pop in and try to kind of interact, with him and the student athletes, because one of my favorite parts of my job is really connecting with the student athletes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna ask you like, what does athletic directing here like really mean to you? Because it seems like you're very involved every day. So yeah,
Yeah,
what does that mean? Like the relationships with the students or like
yeah,
the people that you work with? What does it
yeah.
mean?
I think it's a really good question. It's like it's all the above. The way I see myself is a community leader. We have I call it, we have a learning community because we're really proud of our academic
Yeah,
achievements. So I really see myself as I would say, a manager, hopefully a leader
yeah,
of a community, and setting especially our four pillars of success, where we focus on academic excellence, athletic excellence, good citizenship, and our engagement in the community. I really try to set the tone to continuously cultivate that culture and that mindset with our student athletes, our coaches, our staff, and our faculty. So I really see myself a role to as a community leader. That's how I see Solano Community, and not only representing the athletic department on campus, but especially on campus. I go to a lot of high schools. I go with our outreach team. We make presentations. We are visible. We reach out. So really being engaged in the community. I do Rotary Club presentations. So I really try to go out in the community and really talk about the values of Solano Community College athletics.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity and time in your day and
Okay.
joining us today in our studio. Thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of On Campus here at the Solano College Sports Network. I am your host again, Brooklyn Gonzales, and we are joined by Erik Visser, the athletic director here at Solano Community College, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Erik Visser. I'm in my 5th year as the athletic director of Solano College. To experience community college and its mission has been an outstanding experience. Solano College has a very rich tradition in intercollegiate athletics dating back to 1947. I'm very proud to communicate that rich tradition is still being continued with fine young men and women that represent Solano College on and off the court. In the fall we have the volleyball program. We have a very successful women's soccer program. We have both men's and women's basketball. And then we transition to 4 programs: baseball, of softball, men's women's tennis, and men's and women's swimming. It is our mission to excel our programs and our student athletes in academics. All of our student athletes are committed to give back to the community. And we would invite you to be a part of Solano College Athletics by visiting our website www.solanoathletics.com, and you feel a warm welcome at Solano.